Hello friends, I am from Biology faculty of QLS Academy. Today we are going to learn about respiration in organisms. Hope you will enjoy today's learning. Let's start with our lesson. Now we all know that human body is made up of cells. हम सब की body cell से बनी हुई है. So cell is the fundamental unit of life. कभी आपने सोचा है कि शायद cells भी हमारी तरह रेस्ट लेते होंगे जब वो थक जाते हैं? The answer is no. Cells never take rest at all. They work 24/7 without any breaks. Cells perform different functions like growth, excretion, reproduction, etc. Now, how does a cell perform all these functions without stopping for even a second? A cell needs energy to perform all these different types of functions. Now, you might be wondering कि cells को energy कहाँ से मिलती है? हम भी काम करते हैं, हमें भी एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. हमें भी एनर्जी कहाँ से मिलती है? एनर्जी इज डिफाइंड एज द एबिलिटी टू डू वर्क. रेस्पिरेशन इज द प्रोसेस विच प्रोवाइड्स एनर्जी फॉर लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स. सो वी कैन से दैट respiration is important because it provides the energy for living organisms to perform all of the other necessary functions to maintain life. Our ability to think, walk and talk requires enormous amounts of energy which can only be provided by aerobic respiration. The digestive system converts the food we eat into glucose, then the blood absorbs glucose and transport it to the cells. In the cells, this glucose is broken down to release energy. Respiratory system helps in taking in oxygen by the body. When we inhale air, oxygen enters the lungs. From the lungs, the oxygen is then absorbed by red blood cells and is supplied to all the cells in the body. This oxygen is utilized in breaking down glucose to release energy in the form of ATP. Now, let's talk about the main topic, that is respiration. Respiration is the process of taking in oxygen, using it in oxidation of glucose, releasing energy and eliminating waste products like carbon dioxide and water in the presence of respiratory enzymes. Now, respiration is brought about in two steps, namely external respiration and internal respiration. First, let's talk about external respiration. External respiration is also called as breathing. In previous lesson, we already talked about breathing. It involves inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is the process of taking in air rich in oxygen, while exhalation is the process of releasing out air rich in carbon dioxide. Second is internal respiration, which is also called as cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is a chemical reaction which involves oxidation of food. It is the breakdown of glucose in a cell to release out energy. Cellular respiration is a slow process which occurs at a body temperature. Cellular respiration is observed only in the living cells. It involves releases of energy at various steps. The energy released will be stored in the form of ATP molecules. Now, chemical reaction of respiration, which is very important. It is C6H12O6 plus 6 molecules of oxygen, that is O2, gives out 6 molecules of CO2 plus 6 molecules of H2O, that is water, plus energy. Now, we talked about respiration. Let's talk about types of respiration. Respiration can be of two types, namely aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. First is aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is the process of breaking up of glucose into carbon dioxide and water in the presence of oxygen with release of energy. Aerobic respiration takes place in almost all the animals, including us. हम भी aerobic respiration के through ही energy obtain करते हैं. Second is anaerobic respiration. It is the breakdown of glucose in the cell in the absence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, it is in the presence of oxygen. In anaerobic respiration, it is in the absence of oxygen. Glucose is converted into alcohol and carbon dioxide with the release of little amount of energy. Anaerobic respiration can also be seen in yeast. The breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen in yeast forms alcohol, energy and carbon dioxide. Yeast and other organisms that respire in the absence of oxygen are also known as anaerobes. Yeast is used in beverage industry to produce beer and wine by the process of fermentation. Fermentation is a process of breaking down glucose into alcohol and carbon dioxide, releasing little amount of energy. Fermentation is otherwise also called as anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is observed in muscle cells. Now, have you ever wondered why do you get muscle cramps after heavy exercise? The cramps occur when muscle cells respire anaerobically. The partial breakdown of glucose produces lactic acid. Now, this accumulation of lactic acid inside the cells leads to muscle cramps. We talked about aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, let's try to differentiate between the two types of respiration. In aerobic respiration, glucose is completely oxidized into carbon dioxide and water, while in anaerobic respiration, glucose is incompletely oxidized into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Aerobic respiration takes place in the oxygen-rich environment, whereas anaerobic respiration takes place in the insufficiency of the lack of oxygen. Aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria of the cellular environment. Anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Now, aerobic respiration is harmless to the organism, whereas anaerobic respiration shows the effects, while anaerobic respiration shows side effects and toxic to plant. Now, let's talk about respiration in plants. How do plants respire? Now, during the daytime, plants utilizes carbon dioxide to perform photosynthesis and releases out oxygen. Now, during night, plants respire taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So, the process of photosynthesis and process of respiration are both opposite to each other. We have lungs for the exchange of gases. Now, have you ever wondered how do plants exchange gases? Now, exchange of gases in plants takes place through special structures called as stomata. Now, what are stomata? Stomata are the small structure present in the epidermal cells located on the surface of the leaf. Stomata with its guard cells is called as stomatal apparatus. Opening and closing of stomata is brought about by special structures called as guard cells under the influence of amount of moisture and sunlight. Now, gases are just exchanged between the leaves and the outside environment through these stomata. Roots also respire, during which they utilizes oxygen stored in the air spaces between the soil particles. Overwatering of potted plants should be avoided, as water molecule displaces the air spaces in the soil. In these cases, roots cannot breathe, affecting the growth of the plants. Now, what are the significances of respiration in plants? Now, during respiration, plants convert glucose molecules into carbon dioxide and water with release of energy. This energy released is utilized by the plants to sustain its life. The energy released from the food is useful for different processes like growth, excretion, reproduction, nutrition, etc. The carbon dioxide released into the environment is again used up by the plants in the process of photosynthesis. So students, to conclude this lesson, we learned about the process of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration and the differences between the two. We also learned about the process of respiration in plants. I hope you all enjoyed today's learning. If you have any more doubts, you can go to the following link.